Hello again, friends, and welcome back to another video in our Scotland road trip series, documenting a road trip that we took in Scotland in May of this year. Today, we'll be heading from Stirling Castle, which you saw in our last video in this series, to another famous castle about 16 minutes away, which is Doune Castle. This castle not only has its share of history, but it's also appeared in its share of film and TV shows.
To get to Doune Castle, we left the hill from Stirling Castle and went down to get back to the M9, which we basically traversed the same roads that we used to get into Bridge of Allen on May 11th. And we'll then head northwest to the town of Doune.
Now turn right and then immediately turn right again.
As we descend the hill from Stirling Castle, take note of the narrow streets with cars parked on either side, literally making it effectively like a single-track road in places.
This building you see in front of you is known as Argyll's Lodging. It was purchased from its previous owner by Archibald Campbell, 9th Earl of Argyll in the 1660s, and remained a Campbell property until 1764. We had wanted to visit the home, which is now a museum and considered by the Royal Commission to be the most important surviving townhouse of its period in Scotland, but unfortunately it was closed at the time when we were in Stirling.
Please turn half left and 200 yards onto Upper Castle Hill.
That's not half left. Among the many things different from the US that we noticed during our 2-week road trip in Scotland is the habit among many local drivers of parking on either side of the road in either direction. This is apparently an acceptable practice there.
See what I mean? Like, just come flying up there. It's 20 miles per hour, but just speed away. I hate this. Almost as much as the one-lane roads.
Please leave the roundabout at the second exit and continue to follow A84 and then leave the roundabout at the first exit.
After traveling north a short distance on the M9, we'd head west on the road toward Doune. The village of Doune, Scotland gets its name from the Gaelic word Doune, which means hill fort or stronghold. The name refers to the mound on which Doune Castle stands, on the banks of the River Teith. The first known fortification to stand here was built by the Romans in the 1st century AD.
Upon arriving in the village and attempting to make a left-hand turn toward the castle, it became obvious that the turn was so sharp and the lane was so narrow that even in that little BMW, I was not going to make it.
Right here.
Now turn sharp left onto Castle Road. Please turn right in 100 yards. Caution, restricted access. Please turn right in 100 yards. Caution, restricted access.
Oh dear,
Now
there's a car
turn
coming.
right. Caution, restricted access.
Oh my. Go. I think they're pulling over. Oh, they were pulling over. No.
Hello.
Are you visiting today, are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
The castle? Yeah. Okay, so the toilets are behind that main building there. You can get your tickets up at the entrance there, and there's 2 car parking spaces just on the right hand side here.
Okay.
So you can pick one of them.
All right, thank you. Finally, we arrived and it was time to explore. While there has been some type of fortification here since the time of the Roman occupation, the way the castle looks today is largely credited to Scotland's uncrowned king, Robert Stewart, the first Duke of Albany and Governor of Scotland, who was the younger brother of King Robert III. Albany acquired the castle in 1361 when he married Margaret Graham, Countess of Menteith, and it remained his seat of power.
As Dale mentioned, Albany was the younger brother of Robert III, who was a politically weak monarch and physically infirm after an injury. As a result, after several political maneuvers, Albany became governor and the effective ruler of the kingdom from 1386 until his death in 1420. Thus the reason he is called the uncrowned king. Further political maneuvers and the killing of one of his nephews kept the castle in Albany's hands until 1424, when his brother Robert's youngest son, James I, returned to Scotland and had Albany's son Murdoch and most of the family executed for treason. We had a look around the courtyard before entering any part of the inner building itself. Then we headed for the castle kitchen area first. This tower not only held a large kitchen for the castle, but above the kitchen there were also 2 floors of chambers for high-status family members and visitors.
And high-status family members and visitors were certainly expected and welcomed at Doune. Abbot Bauer of Inchcolm, who lived around the same time as the Duke of Albany and was familiar with him, described the Duke as a big spender. It was clear that no expense was spared on Doune, and even in its ruined state today, the castle still impresses. The practice of showing off one's wealth and high status in your property was seen as vital to maintaining authority at that time of history.
After looking through the kitchen area, we passed into the Great Hall, which according to historical accounts must have been the site of some large and well-attended events, complete with plenty of food. The cathedral-like room with its high ceilings has the typical minstrel's gallery at one end and also has a distinctive central hearth, rather than the normal fireplace built into a sidewall. You can imagine the banquets that took place here, giving the Duke of Albany his reputation for large tabling as well as his belly cheer.
has a steep set of stairs. Almost straight down.
Yep.
From the Great Hall, we would ascend the stairs into the royal chambers, above the gatehouse where we had first entered the castle. These floors contain more formal meeting halls for official business with other nobility and political figures, as well as private apartments where only the most important of guests could meet with Albany and his wife. There are theories that possibly what we see today is only half of the castle that may have been here. Whether Doune was completed and parts were lost to ruin over time, or whether it was an unfinished work in progress, is unclear. Regardless, it is still an impressive ruin to visit.
Following the royal apartments, we then saw the prison cells and pit of the castle.
We then checked out the cellars and storage areas of the castle, where the many supplies were stored to keep the royal residents, their soldiers, and other castle occupants fed and clothed.
With our visit to Doune completed, we got back in the car and took a quick drive to the village where we found a spot to park and then grabbed a quick bite to eat, I believe, and looked around the village a little bit and took a few short video clips and pictures.
In this first clip, we'll be standing roughly here and looking west toward this intersection. Then we'll turn and look east toward this intersection.
Next, you'll see our view from up a small street behind Kilmadock Parish Church here.
From there, we would walk west to the intersection with Doune's Market Cross and look from south to northwest. What is a market cross, you ask? A market cross is the Scots name for the market cross, found frequently in Scottish cities, towns, and villages, and mark the location where, historically, the right to hold a regular market to conduct business or sell goods was granted by the monarch or local political figure. They were also used as sites for proclamation of news and punishments of criminals.
After walking a little further, we turned around and came down this side street and circled back to the main street, admiring the old and new houses and their colorful displays of flowers.
Lilacs. I'm afraid ours will be all done when we get here. You think? We then headed back to the intersection where we saw the Kilmadock Parish Church, which was near where we had parked, and then walked a bit further beyond it. After our brief walk in Doune, we hurried back to our car because we were going to travel to another nearby town to visit the historic Dunblane Cathedral, which was built in the 11th century.
Unfortunately, we did not arrive in time before it was closed to the public,
That was my fault. I didn't realize what time it closed for the day.
so we just walked a bit around the cathedral and surrounding cemetery, then strolled a bit down some nearby streets in Dunblane, close to where we had parked.
As I said earlier, this cathedral was originally built in the 11th century, and the oldest surviving part of the building still visible today is the lower 4 stories of the tower, which date to 1100 AD. Other sections of the building were rebuilt or added on in the 13th century and the 15th century. A restoration project was also done between 1889 and 1893.
At the end of our day, we returned to our Airbnb in Bridge of Allen and finished our evening watching the night set in on the street below.
Well, that wraps up May 12th, our 9th day in Scotland. We hope you enjoyed our visit to Doune Castle as well as our brief visit to Dunblane. If you did, please feel free to give us a thumbs up down below and leave us a comment or two about what you thought. We'd also love it if you shared our videos with other people who might want to see our visit to Scotland.
And if you're not yet a member of our YouTube family, please hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell for notifications. Thanks for stopping again here at the Old House on the Corner.